All right, back once again on the air, Gaming Dad's podcast, episode number 9. We've almost caught up to Star Wars. My name's Tharoah. Hanging out with you this weekend, along with Scotch. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How you been?
Yeah, I can't complain. You know, living the dream. It's Saturday morning. I've got my beverage. You know, I guess it's a sugar-free Monster because I'm old now.
There you go.
But other than that, doing well. You know, we were just kind of talking right before the podcast started. Not a ton going on in the gaming world this week, but that's all right.
Yeah, super disappointing. Like, I was trying to look up on like Twitter and like check IGN and all the normal things. There really isn't a whole lot going on. So it's okay. It's a weird thing, like when you're trying to come up with topics and like there's just nothing going on.
So, you know, that means for the ones that are listening now, you have to go follow us on Twitter. You know, at Tharoah, at Give Her a Stick, right?
Yeah, I switched all the stuff to match my TikTok.
So at Give Her a Stick, and then Gaming Dad's podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Give us some topics that you would like to hear from. Doing really good across the podcasting world. Lots of new follows. Remember, you can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, iTunes, Google, pretty much wherever you partake in your podcasting. We're there now. So, yeah.
Yeah, spreading out to new horizons. Spreading out, spreading it around. So we're still on the YouTube, though. I'll be posting that on Monday, as usual. But Tharoah's been working hard on that, so I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. So starting off this week, I mean, we touched a little bit on TikTok last week. And, you know, one of the things so that you folks that are listening now know what happens. So throughout the week, Scotch and I will typically go back and forth and kind of send each other videos or, you know, hey, look at this, check this out, as possible topics. Well, Scotch sent me a TikTok about how Breath of the Wild is a bad Zelda game.
Yeah.
And I know that we've talked about it before. I know your opinion on Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not really a Zelda game, but I'll kind of let you take this over. If you can find that TikTok, I'll add the clip in.
Yeah,
but let me know.
I'll send it to you. But no, it's so. I mean, of course, I'm on TikTok like all day, every day because you know of the growing following I have there, and just trying to keep up with that.
Oh yeah,
but
860, right? What day are we on now?
Day 63? 64?
Oh, 63.
I just uploaded it. Yeah. So anyway, I found myself on like speedrun / video game TikTok because I follow a couple of old school gaming channels. And like there's one guy who I think he actually sells classic video games and he talks about like different things that you might not have known about with the old games. For instance, with the PS2, I don't know if you knew this, but you can actually turn the logo on the PS2, the little insignia.
If it was, depending on if it was vertical or horizontal, correct?
Right, exactly. So if you had it standing up, you could turn it so that it was vertical. If you had it horizontal, you could turn it again so that it was facing up that way. But there was a stitch that was made that, you know, the new trend is to ask a question and have everyone stitch it. And the question was, what is your unpopular video game opinion? Right. I might be butchering it, but generally speaking, that's what it was. And this was I didn't even say this was an unpopular opinion. It was just a bad take. Right. And that's Zelda Breath of the Wild is a bad Zelda game. And he specified that it was a bad Zelda game because it you know, it was a good game. Like, I don't think that anyone could play Zelda Breath of the Wild and say that was a bad game.
No, of course
right? But he said specifically it was a bad Zelda game. And he specified it because of the way the weapons broke, that there weren't dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And I, by the way, I apologize if I'm sniffling a lot. I've been sick for the past couple of days, and I'm just getting over it and feeling everything drain down the back of my throat. It's fantastic. Yeah, I apologize. But anyway, back to try not to gross out the followers. But
you just lost 8 followers in the middle of the
exactly
podcast.
Right.
They haven't even heard this yet. That's what it is.
So, but no, and I was just like, I was thinking about it, and it's been bugging me because, you know, I didn't grow up playing Zelda too much. Like, I knew Zelda, I played a little bit of Zelda here and there, but I didn't get Zelda with my N64.
Right.
And I didn't play the OG Zelda that my uncles played, for instance. I didn't play that ever. I don't know if you did.
I did.
Okay. So the big thing was like, oh, there's like long dungeons dedicated like within pretty much every single Zelda game,
right?
Like with Ocarina of Time, right? When you had the child, when you were in the child sequence, you had the Goron, you know, where you had to go in like the rock area and you fought the spider thing, or that spider. Excuse me, the spider was in the tree, which that was a dungeon, and then you had the lizard, and then of course as the adult you had each of the different, you know. You had the water temple, then the fire temple, et cetera, right?
Right.
And he was saying that specifically in Breath of the Wild, there isn't like that, those long dedicated temples per se. And
with puzzles and all that good stuff. Exactly.
And the other thing he said that really stuck with me, he said a couple other things, but the two things that stuck with me was one, the dungeons thing. But then the second thing he said is the map is so big and there's nothing to do. And I'm like, what? What do you mean there's nothing to do?
I mean, and I'm not talking about like Korok seeds or anything like that, because there's like 900 of them. You know, and I can understand his point. All right. So in A Link to the Past, which is on the Super Nintendo, there were 14 total dungeons in that game. So, I mean, I completely understand where he's coming from on that. However, I kind of draw a parallel between this and Star Wars. So one of the issues, if you remember when, Star Wars was coming back out, people were all upset. They were like, oh man, they're going to mess it up, blah, 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 blah. So then the first movie came out and they're like, oh, this is cookie cutter, the last one. They're just repeating Luke's timeline and blah, blah, blah. So the video or the movie companies decided, okay, yeah, we'll kind of change it up a little bit. And from there, they changed it up and they're like, oh, no, that wouldn't be canon. That wouldn't happen. I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like, you know, and that's kind of how I feel with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is a unique game. But, I mean, if you look across all the Zelda games, you normally have a common theme of dungeons, which this game did. It had a total of 5 in the main game, and that's... A lot of people will argue with me if there's 5 or not, but you have one of each of the beasts, the divine beasts, which is like the camel, the lizard, the
bird,
and the elephant. Yep. And then you had Hyrule Castle, which was another one. And then if you got the DLC, it adds another one as well. But you know, and to me, I really thought that the dungeons were challenging. Now, because you can't go back into the divine beast after you leave. So if you leave any chests in there, they're done. You're never going back to get them. So I spent the time to beat each puzzle and take my time. And that's the thing that, you know, you can't compare A Link to the Past to Breath of the Wild, just like I can't compare, you know, A Link Between Worlds, which came out on the DS, was kind of an update to A Link to the Past. But A Link Between Worlds and Ocarina of Time. But these video game companies are just like movie companies. They're going to get stuck in this hole of either A, they give the people what they want. They just repeat that same thing. We've seen that over and over with Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft, right? Or B, they change things up. You know, realizing, hey, people like these open world things. You know, I guess trying something new, and I like what they did. Now, Super Mario Odyssey, I want to kind of compare it a little bit, because Super Mario Odyssey has 880 moons, or unique moons, I guess. And to me, the moons are just kind of like thrown everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least with Breath of the Wild, you're going through a field and like the things make sense. It's not just like, oh, there's a Korok seed that's just in the middle of a field for no particular reason whatsoever.
Right.
And like right now, and the reason why I'm kind of more vocal on this is I'm actually replaying through it now. I've done all 4 Divine Beasts. I will be getting the DLC, but not until I beat Ganon. Now, I've got the Master Sword. I've got the shield. I've got everything that I need to beat Ganon, but I'm exploring. I'm checking things out. The shrines. That was the other thing. That was the other point. It just came to me. They talked about how you would do a dungeon and get a heart piece, but in Breath of the Wild, you don't. If you do 4 shrines, you have enough spirit orbs to be able to get either a heart piece or stamina. My take is guys, look, we don't want these video games to just cookie cutter and repeat what they've done before. Like, we don't. If you want to do a remaster, great. If you want to play that game, go play that game again. We want these companies to continue to think outside of the box instead of putting out a, game 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's just pretty much reskinned and with a couple of different levels.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and the argument there was that Mario just does the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And the thing that you have to understand with Mario, and it's the same thing with Breath of the Wild. It's not that it does the same thing over and over again. It takes the same mechanics and just kind of puts a different spin on it. Exactly. Like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine, those are 2 very different games.
They are.
Like, without a doubt. I mean, you talk about, so Super Mario 64, you have, what is it? How many different worlds are there? There's what? 15 different. Yeah, 15 different.
15 plus the castle, and
right.
then the secret star areas.
Right. So 15 different unique areas, right? Completely separated from one another, save
right.
like Metal Cap Mario, which is connected to, the castle actually via the waterfall, and save like Sky, which is connected to at the castle because you fall out of the sky or whatever, right?
Right.
Other than that, it's pretty much all very unique areas that you can go into. Super Mario Sunshine, those are all different unique areas that are all specifically connected to each other. So right. I start at Al Delphi, and then I jump over to the the amusement park, and then I go over to the hotel, and then I go over to this area. But they're all areas that are connected together still. They aren't like disjointed the way that Super Mario 64 is. And then Super Mario Odyssey, right? And well, I haven't played Super Mario Galaxy, so I don't know the specifics behind that one. But like Super Mario Galaxy, based on it, is like different worlds, right? Whereas Super Mario Odyssey, it's like different lands. Different themed lands that are
Odyssey. I mean, you're just traveling around the world.
Exactly, right? So and you know what? Sure. Can you still jump? Sure. Are there still blocks? Sure. Yeah. Can you still jump on enemies? Sure. But with each game, you get a different kind of unique experience that takes the mechanics and then adds different things to that and adds a different experience to it. So like again, Super Mario Sunshine, you have a jetpack essentially attached to your back. Okay.
Right.
And then with Super Mario Odyssey, you can bounce off the cap, you can throw the cap anywhere, and then you can use the cap to pretty much turn into anything. Right. So it's like Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario 64 are only connected because of the jumping and the and those sort of like basic, very, very basic mechanics. Everything else about Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario 64 are completely different. So to say, oh well, Mario does the same thing over and over again. No, they don't. They really don't. And it really, if you take a look at Breath of the Wild, everyone looks at Ocarina of Time, or they look at oh my gosh, what's the other 3D Link game that everyone looked at?
Majora's Mask.
Not Majora's Mask. No, think GameCube. Oh my gosh, what's the name?
Was Sunshine.
Zelda.
I mean, Sunshine. Gosh,
Sunshine. What the heck
Mario.
are you talking? Do you know
Wind
your
Waker.
video games? Not Wind Waker.
Wind Waker.
Well, actually, the funny part about Wind Waker is that the Zelda community got all livid about the fact that the art was different, and they were like, "This isn't Zelda because of the art." And I'm like, "Dude, you need to chill." What is it? Oh, Twilight Princess. Like all of the hardcore Zelda players that I've talked to, they're like, Twilight Princess is the best game, and I'm like, to me, Twilight Princess was okay because it just did the same thing, and it just made it like better graphics, kind of, right? And but all of the games are that they compare to are Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, and they keep on being like, they just need to port those over. I'm like, they just did that with Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and
everybody complained,
and everyone complained. So I'm like, what are they gonna do? And I mean, you don't want this. You don't want the same experience every time. I want a different Zelda game. I want a different experience. You know, I don't get me wrong. I loved Ocarina of Time. Don't get me wrong. I love the original Zelda games on the NES. Okay, I have a copy of it myself. But Breath of the Wild is such a unique, different experience that takes the Zelda feel and brings it into an open world. And the whole idea that, you know, oh, it's so big, this is such a big empty map. It's not a big empty map. I must have spent like, dude, I don't know how many hours I spent just exploring. Like, I'd go do a thing and be like, oh, I did a mission, and then you run around for like 2 hours doing random things because there's so much stuff to look at.
You're doing, and I agree. And I guess I think here's my message to gamers as a whole, and it is kind of skewed because of how like it's reported that gamers are upset about this or gamers are upset about that. It's very similar to the movie industry, where gamers are incredibly critical. I mean, we saw that with the Cyberpunk release. We've seen that with Ubisoft. We've seen that across the board. Gamers are critical. They know what they want, but then they don't know what they want, and that's kind of my issue. Because do I blame, like, for Cyberpunk? Do I blame the developer? Yeah, but I also blame the consumer a lot. All right, because the expectation is, you guys are going to make a game and you're going to give it to me and we're going to like it. Well, that's why you have game developers like Rockstar that are basically turning around to all the consumers and saying, hey, screw off. We'll release the game whenever the hell we feel like it. Until then, keep buying GTA 5. And oh, by the way, people still are. You know what I mean? So we as gamers need to stop being so critical, I think. Stop overanalyzing every little thing. Stop expecting this amazing game to come out instantly, and to be just like that game that I played when I was a kid. No, if you have a game you played when you were a kid, dude, go play that game. Right? That's why I've said it before and I'll say it again. Super Mario All-Stars, 3D All-Stars that came out. Go play that. I've never really played Galaxy until that came out, because I hate with a passion. I'll probably get some hate from this in the comments too, but I hate with a passion the Wiimote, and I hate of the Wii. I hate it. Like, I absolutely hate it.
You don't like the Wiimote?
Oh my god, I hate it.
Oh, we might need to throw fists, man.
And here's the reason why. Okay, and this is actually, I had a Wii, I had a Wii U. But I moved away from Nintendo around the time of the Wii. Like, that's when I moved to Xbox. Because for me, being that classic gamer, I felt that Nintendo had been trying for years to come up with these, like, gimmicky things to throw down my throat. And all I want is a controller and play the game.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, like...
Yeah.
And Nintendo's been trying it for years. So I had actually moved away from the Wii. The Wii U, I think we had one for like 3 months or something. And then got rid of that. And then the Switch I'm enjoying. Why? Because I can hold a controller. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, you could have had a GameCube controller and attached it to the Wii or blah, blah. No. If you attach the GameCube controller to the Wii, it makes games harder because they made motion a requirement to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Super Mario Odyssey. Everybody knows that I run Super Mario Odyssey. As a matter of fact, I have a league match coming up here shortly. But the motion controls in that game are very subtle, and you don't have to use them to play the stupid game. You know, Galaxy. If you wanted the little moon shards, you had to have motion.
You had to wave the Wiimote around.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong about motion controls. If I'm playing Wii Sports with my friends and I'm trying to bowl or whatever I'm trying to do, cool. That's perfectly fine. But in platformers, in, puzzle type games and things like that, I mean, it's not even necessary. So that's my little rant on the Wii. But going back to our original point, going back to my original point, we've got to stop being so critical and analyzing every little thing and expecting. I mean, I'm in school. You know this, right?
Yeah.
I'm in school. I'm in school for computer science. I'm doing some programming and doing some coding and things like that. Guys, designing a video game is not drag and drop. Like, people seem to think that it's just drag and drop, and it's not. Especially if you're having to design your own engine. Of course, it's going to take 7-8 years to develop. And these companies are sitting around a table trying to decide, hey, what should we do for the next Zelda game? What can we change just enough so that people aren't pissed off, but then people are still going to get pissed off anyway?
Yeah.
That's kind of my point with Breath of the Wild.
Well, and the thing about Breath of the Wild is it's such a small group. It's especially with Nintendo games, right? It's always just this small group that gets overly heated about games. Generally speaking, it's with Nintendo. It's just a small group. Whenever it's a Microsoft game or a Sony game, though, it's always this giant blow up of oh, this is the worst game. We have this recent thing with Activision and the new Call of Duty game that there's been there's some hacking going on, and Activision is actually covering it up. I don't have the full details on it. So
I saw that.
I'm not going to
see that on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into full detail because I wasn't able to research it enough because it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
But whenever a Microsoft game or a Sony game does something bad, it blows up out of proportion and people have an absolute fit. With Nintendo games, it's just a small group of dedicated people that are so ultra dedicated that all of a sudden their voices are heard all over the place, and everyone's just okay, you can stop now. And I think you're right to a certain degree. I think you're right. Yes, should we not get onto developers so much so that they can just create a good game? Yes. Right. And do I think that us throwing a hissy fit sometimes pushes them to put out a bad game, like in the Cyberpunk situation? Yes. At the same time, we still need to hold developers up to a certain standard, but not only do we need to hold them up to a certain standard, we have to be consistent with that standard. Because it's again, you have people be oh, you should do this. And then they do the thing, and then oh, who did this? Or people will be oh, Activision, Ubisoft, these people are horrible. Who's the most it was a donkey video. Who sell the most games? Activision, Ubisoft. They're not going to change if they're making money.
Exactly.
And is it always just a hyper angry group of people? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. And maybe they are just good games. Maybe they are popular games, and the people that like the games just aren't saying that they like the game. That's the possibility. Right. But
it's easier to criticize than it is to praise.
Exactly. But I think the bigger thing is getting angry at a developer who's for the Zelda situation, right? They've been doing essentially the same thing for almost over 20 years, and then they change one little thing, and then that dedicated community gets all pissed.
Oh yeah.
So that's the bigger reason why I was kind of what the heck, man.
And I get it. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in the 80s, in the late 80s, the video game industry actually crashed. Okay?
Right.
And so for those of you that are listening that don't know what I'm talking about, what happened was in the 80s, the video game boom was on. People were rushing to make as many games as they can, even unlicensed NES games, all these types of things. Well, what happened was they started putting out such terrible games
because they were just saturated.
Right. They were just rushing all of the games out that the standard dropped incredibly. And then what happened? The consumer lost trust. They stopped spending money on video games. Right? So then you see a transition period throughout the 90s of video game companies dying. And then the video game companies that survived actually changed and altered how they were marketing these video games. And then they brought it, and in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they went a little overboard and started adding, all of these loot packs and DLCs and all of this, and then they got criticism. Well, they got such wide criticism that guess what? They stopped.
Mm-hmm.
They actually stopped. So I don't know. I think you're right. Once we start holding the game companies accountable, awesome. Let's hold them accountable for games that are broken.
Right.
Let's not pressure them. If they say, "Hey guys, we're expected to have this out around 2021," and then they push it back a bunch of times, please don't go out and blast them on Twitter. Don't get them trending. Hey, it happens. They say, "Hey, we need some more time on this." Cool, not a problem. If your kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, Dad, I've got my math homework. I thought I was going to be done at 5, but I'm having some trouble here, so I'm probably not going to be done until 6. What are you going to do?" Like, "No, son, it's got to be done at 5.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you do.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I'm still pissed at Midway, though. They still need to fix NFL Blitz.
Yeah, Midway needs to do a lot.
But, moving on from that, there was other TikTok stuff though that you should look for videos on TikTok of like these gaming rants or these video game there's speedrunning as well on TikTok now, which I think is really bizarre. But
of course, don't forget TikTok. I mean,
of course, go give her a stick. Okay, that's my TikTok. Go check it out. Go follow. Anyway, no, there was another one. There was another guy I saw. He was giving some opinions. Let me see here. Let me see one. I'm going to point out one other one because I thought this was an absolutely awful take. I'm trying to find it here. Story in GTA 5, completely ruined by Trevor's character.
While you're looking that up, just so our listeners know, there are a lot of awful takes on TikTok.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. If BioShock Infinite didn't have its story, it'd be a 5 out of 10. Yeah. And I'm like, well, of course it'd be a 5 out of 10. It's a story-based game. It's like taking the story out of The Last of Us. Like, yeah.
Hey, if Mario had no jumping, it would be a terrible game. That doesn't make any sense. Let's just okay.
Oh my God.
That's fine.
And then there was one other one. Hold on, I'm waiting for it. Black Flag is a good game. Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree.
Kingdom Hearts has really well written characters, just a really poorly written plot. Skate franchise is better than Tony Hawk. I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know about the Kingdom Hearts thing because you'll have like a super serious scene and you just got Goofy's dumb-looking face in the background of the cutscene, like.
Well, and maybe it's just me. I just don't like anime that much, and some of the anime stuff just kind of puts me off. I love Kingdom Hearts. Like the combat is amazing, and it's so fun. But the anime part of it, the story part of it, kind of puts me off. But the big one was Death Stranding was one of the best games of the last generation.
What?
Like, excuse me, one of the best games.
I can think of like 10 other games.
like,
you know what I'm saying?
What? Like he there was another one where someone said that it deserved Game of the Year. I'm like, hold on, you're gonna put Death Stranding as the best game of 2020 above like literally any other game?
Yeah, that's
like what?
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Oh my God. So anyway, but bunch of terrible takes on there.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yeah.
It's good. You're either, laying in bed trying to go to sleep or, whatever. Just check it out. You'll eventually make your way into the video game side and even the speedrunning side of TikTok. So.
Yeah. But
All right, so
on to speedrunning. A little bit of news there. Like I said, not a whole lot going on.
A lot of bit of news, actually. 2 new major world records. The first one is going to be the new Super Mario Odyssey world record, previously stood for 5 months by Mitch, was just beaten. It was beaten on January 15th. Excuse me. Yeah, January 15th. By 8 seconds.
Tyrone.
8 seconds. Look, Tyrone, with 8 seconds, do you, for those of you that don't follow speedrunning, 8 seconds in a game that's incredibly optimized is like a year.
Yeah.
That's like Usain Bolt pretty much leaving everybody in the dust. You know, he's done with his race and they're still a quarter of the track behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Well, in kind of in reflection, there was a kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here, right? Some guy tips out baby. There was I'm talking on Twitter here. Tips out baby. He's a oh my gosh, he's co-founder of the OTK network, founder of CDLGG. He's a streamer and a YouTuber. I don't know who he is. He's some random guy. He made a tweet on the 12th. I will give out 1,000 subs to whoever beats Simply's Mario 64 120 star record by 20 seconds or more by the end of January. Okay. When we say that that Tyrone beating the world record by 8 seconds is a big deal, okay, after 5 months. Like this this whole 20-second thing is by the end of January. That's impossible. Like every top runner is commenting on here is like, dude, there's no way that's not going to happen. So Tyrone beating it by 8 seconds. And we were talking about this beforehand. I remember we were talking about it before, you know, when Super Mario Odyssey was heading towards that speedrun record of an hour, right? When we were trying to go for the sub hour, and everyone was like, "Is sub hour possible?" Well, now we're pretty much 3 minutes past sub hour almost, right?
Right.
And so we're getting into very, very optimized territory, unless something crazy comes out, which, you know, crazy stuff comes out all the time within speedrunning. Right. So
it does.
I have no doubts that we're going to see that sort of thing, but 8 seconds, especially the way, you know, especially the way that Tyrone was grinding.
Of course,
Tyrone. His grind is just a different kind of grind. I really like watching Lucid. I've been wanting him to lower his PB, get more into the second place or first place range. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit off of Mitch there now, but Tyrone, he's just I'm going to go with the meme. He's a meme. He's just built different, you know.
Right. And you know, 20 seconds is a lot. I mean, it is really cool for those of you that aren't familiar with Twitch. So 1,000 gifted subs would cost this person about $5,000. It's about $2,500 for an affiliate, slightly more for the bigger streamers, the partner level streamers. So I mean, it is a lot of money on the table. But I'm kind of going through the comments of the top streamers here. Or the top Super Mario 64 runners, and basically, they're saying the same thing of, look, you know, this is a huge gap. I don't think it could happen. I mean, and maybe it could, because right now the current world record holder is like 20 seconds below the second player person. Mm-hmm. You know, so but Simply's run is incredibly optimized. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll see what happens at the end of January, but I'm pretty sure that this gentleman is going to have his 1,000 subs still in his pocket by that point.
I don't think any. I mean, other than Cheese, I mean, he was on world record pace, or he was on PB pace yesterday. Yeah.
And here's the thing, and that I was actually watching that, and he was perfectly fine all the way up until SL. He was still on 137 pace and just.
Yep.
But yeah, another world record on the books this week. Zelda, Ocarina of Time, 100%. Not surprising. 3 hours, 9 minutes, 19 seconds by ZFG. So for those of you that don't know, that's 100% of the game. Like, the game is done.
Yeah.
And you have everything done in the game, which is disgusting. ZFG is a beast, so congrats to him.
Well, and he's another one of those guys. I mean, everyone knows ZFG for that 100%, right?
Right.
Like within the community, Twitch especially, he's just known for that, whereas with, Super Mario Odyssey, the 80%, you've got about 3 or 4 different guys who are contending for that top place spot. Right. Tyrone, Mitch, Lucid, and then you've got a couple people here and there like Chaos Pringle, that sort of thing, but who are a little bit further off.
Yeah.
You've got ZFG, who's just kind of dominated that 100% in Zelda. I mean, and we're talking. You think about Zelda, right? Like I played that casually. It took me it took me about a week and a half to finish the game,
right? Without
doing 100%, by the way. And he's doing this consistently, basically every day, playing that 100%. And consistently lowering the record further and further.
Is he? I think he's bored.
Yeah,
I think he's bored. You're like, all right,
maybe.
You know what? He's got another world record this week. It's perfectly fine. I know Glitchymon also has worked really hard to try to optimize it, but it's helpful when you're the guy that's actually doing the routing.
Mm.
And ZFG, I don't know if you've watched like the glitched 100%. I can't remember what it's called, but it's where you manipulate the code in the game to get items and stuff. It's the weirdest thing because it looks like you're just doing random stuff. All right, I got to hit this tree, got to turn 3 times, I got to throw a bomb, I got to move forward, I got to use my shield, and then eventually you just start to see the game break.
Yeah.
But so yeah, congrats out to ZFG. One last thing in speedrunning I do want to mention. Apparently, there's some new category with Breath of the Wild. I know we already spoke about Breath of the Wild earlier, but it's bread percent. So basically, it's just like it sounds. It's the fastest person who can gather the ingredients and bake bread. Looks like world record right now, 1944. That may be beaten today. There are a few people that are grinding that down. But, the things we come up with.
I mean, speedrunners will never fail to amaze me. I mean, when they came up with nipple percent in Super Mario Odyssey, I was just like, okay, how far will they take this?
Oh, they're going to take it far.
There was rake in the lake percent for Super Mario, for Breath of the Wild, and it's not even like a rake; it's like they throw an axe or whatever into a lake,
right?
And then and now we've got bread percent. It's just like it's a meme. It's funny. It's something that it may that anyone can do. Like anyone can throw together the ingredients to make bread and just make it really fast.
Right.
Then I think the slowest time is like 31 minutes. So it's one of those things that's just kind of a meme. But of course, they're going to optimize that one somehow. But that's what speedrunners do. I don't know, man. They're so speedrunners as a whole just kind of are weird, man. They're just weird. I don't know. I like it.
I do. Before we get on to our next topic, I do want to go ahead and comment on something that both you and I missed in our little planning meeting here. But the official trailer for Super Mario 3D World and Bowser Fury came out just the other day with a lot of new features. There's going to be an online feature. The Bowser's Fury trailer, if you haven't checked it out, definitely go to supermario3dworld.nintendo.com. Check out that trailer. It looks pretty cool. I'm excited. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts where, hey, we don't want to port in this particular situation. We want, add some new features, add some new things into the game and let us check it out. And that seems to be what they've done. They are adding amiibo support, which is fine. I mean, I don't buy amiibos, but it doesn't break the game to not have an amiibo. But I think it's something that I'm going to be excited for. They're already doing pre-orders for it right now, coming out February 12th of this year. I may get it.
And the thing about it is that, again, you're coming off of this kind of stint with the 3D All-Stars, right? Where you had Paper Mario come out, and then you had the 3D All-Stars come out, and it was just a port. Yeah, Paper Mario you can't go wrong with Paper Mario, really.
Have you played the new one or no?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay,
I need to pick it up, but it looks like they did something different with it. And especially with the Bowser's Fury aspect to that, like, it's kind of a neat thing of being like, we're going to give you 2 games in one. We're not just going to, give you just one game. And it's 2 games, but it's also a new game. It's a port
Right.
to, did they revamp it? Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But then they give you a brand new game as well, which I think is kind of neat.
Which is cool.
So and that the video, the trailer for it, Bowser looks intense, man. Like that's the most intense Bowser, other than like maybe Super Smash Melee Bowser that I've seen so far.
Right. So that's something I'm excited about. A new Mario game to play. I mean, new and old. I never personally. I told you I only had the Wii U for a while, so I didn't really play 3D World. So it's going to be brand new to me. I'm excited for it. Gamers, be nice. That's all I'm saying on that.
And one last thing before we move on. Pretty big deal within the Mario Kart community. I don't know if you know about a whole lot about Mario Kart Wii. Sonic Salt came out with a video a couple of years ago about Mario Kart Wii and just how broken it can be, specifically with the ultra shortcuts. There was a specific ultra shortcut within Rainbow Road that had been theorized for several years. It's where you go from the finish line, you turn around, you basically grind the railing and hop all the way over to the other side of the track and complete a lap. And TAS had been able to do it. No one had been able to do it physically, though, themselves. It finally was done just the other day by this guy, Arthur MKW. And it's a Twitch clip. I see it on Polygon if you want to look it up there. But it's finally been done. We talk about, incredible things happening within speedrunning, within just gaming in general, beating Super Mario Odyssey by 8 seconds, lowering the Zelda world record again. This is huge for the Mario Kart community because it's showing that, this is possible. For a long time, people were like, there's no way any human's going to be able to do this because it's such precise. I mean, we're talking insanely precise movement with the controller, right? And someone was able to do it. So, big jump there in the Mario Kart Wii community. Just wanted to make sure to highlight that before we moved on.
I agree, and we're getting to a point. So TAS, so for those of you that don't know, that stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun. That's basically where you program a computer to execute certain inputs on a controller at an exact time or exact frame. And a lot of those task-specific strats are thought to be impossible by humans, especially when you're stringing together multiple frame-perfect inputs on the controller. But we've seen, like in the Super Mario Bros. World, like everything that's in SMB that we can do, or that's in the current world record, which I believe there was a new world record set the other day, by the way. I'll have to look that up. But for Super Mario Bros., watching Adam Ferrari do that, everything is frame perfect. And that game, that side scroller, that from the late 80s, early 90s, that's 60 frames per second. And they're actually able to hit a particular frame rule, and they've got to count that frame and all of this good stuff to do certain things. Now, I mean, there's a few things that TAS can still do that humans can't. Like there's I don't know if you've ever seen the world's worst fake speedrun. Where the guy he's playing SMB and he's like eating pizza and stuff, but executing task strats. So I'm surprised. Well, I mean, I am and I'm not, that gamers are starting to be able to do this. I was around, was big into the Super Mario Odyssey community and commentary around the time that the sub hour was supposed to happen. And now we're like, what, almost 2 minutes and 15 seconds lower than that?
Right.
So a lot of that doesn't surprise me anymore, to be honest.
Well, and it just shows the resilience, how far they'll go as far as that goes. They're, like I was saying,
resiliency or insanity, which one?
It's one of the two. It's one of the two.
So, but yeah, good stuff going on in the speedrunning community. Really, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I wanted to go over just really quick before we get into our final topic is this. And I mentioned this briefly in the other podcast. And this question has come up quite a bit, so I kind of want to address it. People have come and asked me ever since I posted on Twitter, kind of a long story about my stream career and where I am today, where I am mentally when it comes to gaming. And, I know, Scotch, you and I have talked about it just a little bit, and how, as we get older, as we get families, that joy kind of diminishes a little bit.
Yeah.
For gaming. And so when you asked me that question, I sat and thought about it. And my response to you was like ridiculous. I don't even remember. It was something like, yeah, it's a little mixture of no time, depression, and kids or something.
It's just adulting.
Right. And there's some truth into that. Like,
right.
You made a good point at one point that, us, taking care of a family, our time is very valuable. So normally it's, and by valuable, I don't necessarily mean money. I mean, you invest in time.
It can be, though. It can be.
So for me, I remember back to when I would play Destiny, the first Destiny, or Overwatch. I would work all day. I'd get home, and the first thing I'd do is I'd pick up that headset, send a party invite out to the boys, and see what was going on. And if they couldn't play that night, I'd be upset. Right. And I wouldn't know what to do. I think being content in gaming is the main reason.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, yeah, I had my friends to play with. It was cool. It was fun. We would raid, all that good stuff. But I think it has to do with setting goals.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So for me, a lot of my speed goals that I've had were unrealistic within the time frame. As unrealistic as that 120 star, given a 1,000 subs for a 20-second drop in world record. And so I just become discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many games that I want to play that I haven't touched. And I know you're the same way because I just looked at your Steam library. So how to fix that? And this is after, me sitting and just thinking about this topic. Setting goals for yourself. Hey, I really want to try this game. All right, that's what we normally say. So what do? We pick up the game, we turn it on, we play it for a couple of minutes, and something comes up. Right? Trying a game is not a goal. It's not.
Right.
So, but if you approach it as, hey, I just bought this new game, I would like to be able to complete the game in 2 weeks. Right, so that's realistic. You can
that's realistic. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
and complete a game. Or if it's speedrunning, hey, I would like to get a 10-second PB by next Friday. Again, if it's not optimized, and like for me, Sapphire, I've got a 26, world record is at 19. A 10-second PB is realistic. It's very realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think setting goals. And then what goes along with that is because people have asked, well, where do you get your motivation? Where, I'm just not motivated. I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated. Well, change the word motivated to discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes everything. So, for example, you go to work every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you have to support your family, right?
Right.
You don't want to go to work every day.
Not where I work.
You don't necessarily want to go to work every day, but you're disciplined in knowing that, hey, this has got to be done. I got to do it. So changing that mindset of, instead of trying to find the motivation to do something, like, oh God, I'm just not motivated to stream and blah, 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 blah. The discipline. Hey, I got to do it. I set this stream schedule. I told my buddies I would be on. I got to do it. An example of this that I'll give is so every couple of weeks I go and I play Dungeons and Dragons. up in Colorado Springs, which is about an hour from where I am. And it's a pain because you have to drive through the mountains and blah, blah, blah. And I'm perfectly content with just being at home all the time. But every time the game's coming up, so like we have a game coming up tomorrow, I have to tell myself, no, you'll be fine once you're there. And 9 times out of 10, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get there, I'm having a great time with my friends and blah, 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 blah. Discipline. Not motivation, discipline. And that's pretty much my talking point for that.
Right. Well, and for me, it's a little bit different. It's you know, I go through phases where it's like I want to play. Like I think I always want to play video games. Like I always want to do something with video games, or I want to play something, right? Where it for me, it's this thing of like I don't know what I want to play.
Right,
like for a while I was playing Skyrim and I was loving Skyrim, and then I jumped over and I played I was playing Super Mario 64 randomizer because I was like, oh, it's fun because it's a different way of looking at Super Mario 64. Play a little Minecraft. I have a bunch of PS2 games that I haven't touched, been playing a little bit of that. But I've gotten into a lull where it's just like I'm kind of bored. And maybe it's just because I'm tired. I don't know. I think it might just because I'm tired. And that's one of the things that I was telling you about was just like, you know, I'm just exhausted, you know, and like having to come home, especially because I work late at night, unfortunately, coming home and then being like, well, I want to play a video game, but I don't know what to play. And, you know, well, I got to get up and tomorrow I got to do stuff. There's just so much stuff that you have to do as an adult that it's like, you're right. There is discipline involved with it to a certain degree to playing games, especially staying up with video games and staying current is it just, you got to play it. That's it.
You're as ADD as I am.
Oh yeah.
Let's just face it. And I've found now by setting a goal for myself. So, for example, 2 Point Hospital. I freaking love that game. I don't care what it is. It's so much fun. It's a game that's based upon an older game called Theme Hospital back in the 90s. And I set a goal for myself saying, hey, I want to be done with this little area that I'm in by next week. And this was last week. And guess what? I did it. And now I'm like, oh, shoot, now I can go to a new area. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. And it kind of helped relight that fire a little bit. And so now what I've been doing is instead of just saying, oh, man, I really want to play that, I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to play No Man's Sky. Mm-hmm. And I want to have, you know, this many ships and this and this and this by this time. And I hold myself accountable, just like I do with everything else in life, you know. Now that I know what you're thinking, oh, well, that makes gaming a chore. It really doesn't.
No, and I was just about to say that. If anything, like that's the point of the game is to set a goal and reach that goal in a certain amount of time or whatever.
And what's interesting is game companies know about, you know, attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and they design games for you.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say this is that psychologists even say that for people with ADD or ADHD, it's useless to set a long-term goal without setting small, short-term goals.
Right.
Because it's I got a small goal. Oh, I got a reward. Oh, I got a small goal. Oh, I got a reward. But by the time you're done, you've reached your long-term goal. Mm-hmm. So I found that actually saying, oh, okay, you know what? I have Surgeon Simulator, but I'm okay with not playing that right now. And writing down my goals, it's sitting on my desktop of the things that I want to do. And so when I say, oh, what am I going to play or what am I going to stream? I look up and boom. Oh, okay. All right. If I'm not playing Phasmophobia, you know, with the crew, this is what I'm going to do. And it makes it a lot easier.
Well, and that's a good segue into kind of what this was before we shut down the podcast or back in February, January, yeah, we had the idea of giving each other a game to play. so that we'd be ready for the next podcast, and maybe not a week, but maybe setting it out for 2, maybe 3 weeks, giving ourselves that length, just because we're both dads, we're both busy. I know for you, you're about to jump off of the podcast and you're about to do a race. I'm about to jump off and celebrate my son's birthday. First birthday, by the way. Pretty excited. GG for a year.
Taking him out park crawling, huh?
Exactly. So, but no, I know you had me play Limbo.
Yep.
And that was that I had never played a game like that before, and that cool? it was such a unique game. And what really blew me away was the ending. The ending of that game is just so satisfying and nice. It leaves this kind of like opening of like, well, what happens next? Which is what I want with a lot with a lot of games, is kind of like this idea of I can kind of control my idea of what's happening here. It's not necessarily set in stone what the storyline is. Like, don't get me wrong, like GTA, Zelda, I'm thinking of like big Skyrim, for instance. Those games, like they have like small lore, but the story itself is very set in stone. Whereas with Limbo, you gotta figure out what's going on. Right. And I love that. I can kind of like put myself into the story and say and make up what I think is happening, right? And I can figure out, okay, what's the ending here? Does he actually die, or is this a dream? Like, what is it? I don't know. And I could kind of like play around with that. And I just loved that game. That was just, and it's one of those quick games. It's a pick up, put down. I played that within an hour. Right. And it's a nice little game. I loved it.
It is. As a matter of fact, we talked about before recording today what games we want each other to play.
Yep. Looking at the Steam library. The Steam library just filled with games that we haven't played yet.
So, what is your game for me?
So, I talked about it last week, and you have 0 hours in it, man. You have to play it Black Mesa. And it's finished. It's completed. Take your time with it. I'll give you 3 weeks to finish it. It's you got to take your time with it. You really do, because there's so much to explore within it. It's the key first person shooter that everyone knows of. Sure. It's kind of like revolutionized that area. You had games like Doom. You had games like what was it? Duke Nukem. Those first person shooters that were very, like very 2D kind of 3D, but 2D at the same time. Yeah. Right. This was like the first big 3D first person shooter. And not only that, but it's a remastered version of Half-Life. Right. Brought to today, and they like I said, they finished it this past year. We had been waiting for that Zen area to be finished, and they finally finished it, and it's exactly how it should be. It's Half-Life the way that Half-Life is meant to be played, with new graphics and everything like that. I think you'll love it. If I know you as a gamer the way I think I do, you're gonna love the game. Well,
I will do that. Now for your game.
Okay.
Did you already see it pop up?
I saw you sent me something. What did you send me? There we go. Okay, got it. Okay.
That's the game you're going to play.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right. And the game is Inside. Now, it's very similar to Limbo. It's a little darker. But it that same puzzle type, and it's one of those games where there's no storytelling, because there's no dialogue, but you go through the game and you start to see a story. And so Inside is really good. And it's now in your Steam library. Boom. That's your game.
There we go. So setting goals, revamping our love of gaming a little bit.
If we're gonna set goals, then let's go ahead and come up with a realistic time for us to have spent, in these games.
I think 3 hours.
So 3 hours.
3 hours by next week. I think that's realistic.
Yeah. And maybe I'll do mine on stream.
Yeah, I'll stream mine.
Yeah.
I don't stream ever, so this will maybe give me the opportunity to finally stream something.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'm stoked about it. Again, it's just I like it because I want to play games and you want to play games. It's just like what's motivating us to play games. And again, as you get older, I think when you're a kid, especially like when you don't have kids, when you're not married,
Right.
like, again, this is the Gaming Dads podcast, right? When you're when you're younger, you have all this free time and you don't have anything dedicated that you need to do. Again, like I came home and I played Skate for hours. Skate 3, right? Or you played Skyrim for hours, or you played Minecraft for hours, or I played TF2 with my best friend back in college and high school for hours. Right. And things happen, things change, you get busy. And, I think that people don't understand how busy you get as a parent and as an adult and as someone who's married, that sort of thing.
I don't realize it.
So, and no. But that's just a reality. And, but we still love games and we still want to play games. So this is how we have to kind of like force ourselves to love games again, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
So, as we're kind of wrapping up this week's episode, if you have any suggestions on games that we should play, games that we should try, kind of understanding our situation, let us know either down in the comments. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tharoah. Scotch is at Giver a Stick. I'm
actually on Twitter. It is at Scotch and Tie Guy. Okay, I haven't changed that one yet. I don't know. Can I change that?
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I'll figure that out. Anyway.
Just create another one. Just create a...
create more social media.
The Gaming Dads podcast on Twitter as well.
Yep.
There's lots of ways to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We listen to your suggestions. We listen to and read. I read every comment. I try to respond to every comment. I've noticed that there's been a couple of people commenting that said, "Hey, I came here from Titkok," which is really cool. I like seeing that. So drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. It really helps us out a lot. And share this. Hit that share button.
Yeah.
So, cool. Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. I unfortunately have a league match, and you have a birthday party to get to. But
yeah,
hopefully we're going to have. I'm working on some stuff for next week's episode.
Okay.
So to kind of tease a little bit, I'm working on some stuff, and we'll kind of just leave it at that. But yeah, I'm really excited. For 2021, I'm really excited for all the dads out there, all the new dads, the future to be dads, the dads to their dog at home. We're all dads,
and don't forget about the moms. Moms are dads. Moms are dads.
Moms can be dads.
They can be dads.
They can be dads.
There we go.
So are we the gaming parents podcast now?
No, we're the gaming dads because we're both dads, but we do want to exclude the moms.
That's fair.
There we go.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
We're going to see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.
And always good gaming.
Absolutely.